G'day, Tom from CoCreative. Probably my favourite game of all time is Zelda, and a new game in the series has come out called Zelda Tears the Kingdom. Now I want to turn that logo into a nice 3D wall-mounted sign. This video will be how we made that happen. So stick around and watch and see what we make. So here's the Zelda Tears the Kingdom logo, fully vectorized. This took me a long time to draw. As you can see, there's lots of little bits. If I zoom in, you can see I've done all the little cracks in the letters and all the single pieces. We've got the corrupted sword down here, and the master sword probably took the most time. It's got all the corruption here and broke down all the colors in here. As you can see, if I click on it, let's click right in. You see how many layers there is in here. Each one was redrawn. Hold on, I didn't explain why we needed to make a vector file of this logo. Now this is going to be laser cut, which means I need a path for the laser to follow, and a pixel logo does not have this. And these files for these sort of logos, especially Nintendo, aren't readily available. And if they've been drawn, they've not been drawn well, so I thought I'd just do it myself. Let's do a very quick recap of how this is done. There's a video, you can click here, that explains better why we need to, but in short, pixel logos don't have a path to follow. As you can see, there's pixels, but if you come across to the vector logo, you get a very clear path to follow, and that's how the laser decides where to cut. Now for the Master Sword, yes, I can print that because it's a pixel graphic, but I didn't have access to a high resolution logo like that at the time, but I redrew it anyway, and I think I've done a pretty good job. So the way I did it, I literally got the pen tool out, and this is on Illustrator. It took a very long time. I slowly drew a path for every part. It took a very long time. This is me just rushing it. But yes, you just go around and you just trace it. And obviously you want to be able to see what you're doing. So you change the stroke and fill, but yes, you go around and trace. So now you can see how long it would have taken me. But I think it was well worth it when you see the final product. Alright, let's get back to the video. Play. I'm going to reiterate, this is for personal use only. Not giving this away. I don't want to upset Nintendo. Bowser, don't come for me. That's Doug Bowser. Alright, so this is the logo, and the sign we're going to turn in, which you've seen, is this. It's going to be mounted on a nice piece of Tassie blackwood, which is going to have a little bit of a stain. It's going to have lugs that sort of offsets on the wall, and then this is all going to be in 3D acrylic printed with UV colour. I was originally going to do it on a clear background, but the walls I have at home are quite light, and I just didn't think it'd have the same contrast. I thought the depth looked great, but if I had a darker wall, I'd go down that route, but we've gone the wooden route. Now, there's multiple phases we've got to go through, so we'll start. We need the sign template, so once it's cut out and coloured, we'll need a template to put it all together, and this is what this is. And all these bits will fall through, but you keep it to help put the pieces together. It's like a little jigsaw. You'll see how that goes together later. Obviously, here's the piece of wood. We need the background for that. Now, these are all the pieces to cut out now. It's all arranged differently because I wanted to save acrylic, but it has to be printed on, so it can't be too tight. So these are broken up in 3 separate pieces. I print them separately, 2 solid colours in the sword, and a little piece of corruption that goes inside the Z here. So we've got the Zelda here, and then the cyclical snake or dragon eating itself, and the corrupted sword. They're all the same colour, so I put that there, and as you can see, there's a little bit of a overprint so that we're going to have the colour print away. It's going to look really crisp and clean. And then the sword, I'll have a template, so I'll pre-print a template border in the UV to make sure I can line up perfectly, but I put a little purple and grey stroke around bits so that there'll be no white showing if I can't get the alignment perfect, but I'll do my best there. So as you can see, there's a fair bit to cut out and a fair bit of things to put together, but I think it's going to be a great end product. And you've probably already seen a sneak peek, but we'll see how it looks in the end. Stick with us. Before we get making, I thought I'd explain what we're using to cut out all the materials. It's a laser cutter. It's a 150 watt CO2 laser. It was made by Boda. They don't make these anymore. It's got a cutting bed of 900 by 1300. I'll chuck the dimensions on screen for people in the US. But it's a very handy tool to cut out most materials. And that's what we're going to use to make this sign. So let's get cracking. I was originally going to use some clear, but I feel that this nice dark timber will contrast well with the Tears of the Kingdom logo, so that's what we're going to go with. It's a nice grain, really dark, really crisp. We chuck this masking tape on to protect the wood and to stop the burns from coming onto the wood. You can sand this off, which will give it a slight sand after the fact, but this just makes it easier and you get a better result. Just down in the painting studio, and we're just going to chuck a clear coat on this timber to really pull out the grain and just darken it a little bit. So this is the product we're using. That's a good one, and we'll just get this painted. Now we'll just let this dry. As you can see, it's really pulled out the grain and it's much darker, which will contrast well with the Tears of the Kingdom logo. Here's the logo cut out. We've got to peel all this material off. And here's all the letters that need to go on. We're getting it prepped for UV cutting. That's the sticky tape on the back that, well, it's more than sticky tape, it's a very strong adhesive that sticks onto the material and is a very strong bond. But the reason we have to cut with a tape on, protective tape on, is that it doesn't leave burn marks, so it's a tedious process after the fact, but we'll get all the pieces in there and it'll look great, ready for giving it the right colour for the logo on the UV printer. We have all the pieces all peeled and ready for the UV now. That took a little while. There'll be some time lapses to see. There's this Master Sword with the corruption from the upheaval. Obviously Zelda, you got the K and the T over here, don't worry about that, we didn't forget about it. And then you've got the Zonai artwork that sits behind, which will all be one colour. And the final, this is the MDF template that will help us align everything perfectly. We also have some internal parts if we need for some more alignment for some of the Zonai parts. And here's the other piece here. As you can see, we might need to snap off and use that to align some pieces. We can also use some of the little pieces that fall out here for some alignment. So next step is the UV, and then after that is assembly. So I thought I'd explain what we're using to print on the material, the white acrylic. This is a UV printer. It's made by Roland. It's a Versa UF LEF 200. We won't go into great detail, but it's a beast of a machine. Can print on pretty much anything, flat, even round, as a rotary device. But do all the color printing, layering, UV, gloss, white ink, does everything. Absolute beast. So we've just done the template of the master sword to make sure that it prints perfectly, as it's hard to put a bleed on a complex image. You don't have a solid color that can flow over, so we need it to be exact. So I've printed directly onto a base plate to line it up, and we'll just put the master sword in now. We've dropped the jig in and it's perfectly lined up, and we'll just put the master sword in. We'll just put a little bit of corruption in too, which is sitting over here. Let's chuck you in there, mate. Alright, perfect. Let's do a quick time lapse to see this print. Oh, gee whiz, turned out better than I thought. Let's get it out. And just get rid of that template. Oh, I feel like Link himself. Look at that. Perfectly aligned. Oh, wow. And then the tiny bit of corruption that goes inside the Z on the thing. Don't mind my disgusting hands. That's what happens when you're in a workshop all day. So we just had a tiny bit of an error. This is in the artwork setup on the corruption Zonai ring. As you can see here, I didn't put any color highlight on this piece, and this piece, which is no big deal. All the big pieces got done, so I can just make a tiny little jig for these three pieces. We'll recut this little one and we'll just put these two, and we'll get that fixed. But overall, that one turned out great. Last but not least, the piece de resistance, the actual logo. So it's just got a very light beige colour to it in the Tears of the Kingdom logo, so we'll get that on there. And we're all done with the nice beigey cream, whatever colour you want to call it, all done there. Ready to make the sign. Next step. Alright, we're about to start putting it together. So Sophia and I are going to put this sign together. So this is the template we'll be using. And we'll have to put extra bits in to get all the small Zonai stuff, but we'll start with the Zelda. And we'll put the sword in and then work all the green part last. So we're going to do a nice little time lapse and show you when it's finished. So you'll notice in this time lapse we run into a few little issues. Things I would change is reduce the amount of pinch points in the template we have here, that MDF template. Parts are getting caught. We have to use a piece of tape to lift up the Zonai ring to make sure that it doesn't stick down whilst we're putting other parts. We had to actually, as you'll see here, remove the whole background and put the part in separately. While I'm mounting this sign, I thought I'd give a quick shout out to a screwdriver I love. It's from LTT store. Linus has done a great job with this screwdriver. It's so good I'll use it instead of my cordless to mount the Zelda sign. It's just got some good features. You can fit 12 little heads in the top, really strong magnetic strength. It's got a ratchet so you can go both clockwise and anti-clockwise. It's just a good piece of kit. This is not sponsored, I just love the product. It turned out pretty damn good, very happy with how it turned out, but a few things I might have done differently is I might have put the Zonai circle art behind the backing. I'll just put that up on the screen just here to show you what I think it looked like. If that was UV printed in a matte gloss on top of the wood, it would give that extra depth look. And I thought I could make the rings backlit. That'd be a very hard task, and that might be for a future video. If this one does well, I might revisit this sign. But overall, I'm really happy with it. Here's a close look. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more future content, and comment down below what we should make next. Should be a new sign, tour of the workshop, a how-to on something. Give me some ideas. Anyway, thanks for watching.